Hi, I'm Jeff Harkness, and it's time to go on campus for week 6 of the Missouri Valley football schedule. We'll start with the early game this weekend, and that's the game 1 o'clock down at the Dakota Dome in Vermillion. South Dakota playing host to Southern Illinois. Final 3 games of the year for the Coyotes, and if they make a run and go 3-0 the rest of the way, maybe, just maybe, we're talking an outside shot at the playoffs this year for Joe Glenn's team. But first, they got to get by the Salukis. The Coyotes coming in off of a loss at Northern Iowa, a game they controlled the first quarter in Cedar Falls and actually led 7-0 after the first 15 minutes, moving the ball at will against the Panthers' defense. But then after that, absolutely nothing against UNI's defense. And so obviously USD's got to find a way to sustain their offense throughout an entire game going up against Southern Illinois. The USD defense played pretty well, but Aaron Bailey, the UNI quarterback, had a decent game against them. And so once again, USD going into a game that they have to win, and there'll be this final 3 stretch going down the stretch, and it starts Saturday at the Dakota Dome against the Salukis of Southern Illinois. Mark Ionati is the quarterback, and he really is one of the best to come along. 517 yards already in the game this year against Indiana of the Big Ten, 471 yards against Indiana State. He's in the top 4 in the nation in FCS, with over 2,300 yards through the air so far this season. And so obviously neutralizing the pass game is going to be very, very important to the Coyotes. And one of the things that the Salukis do just about as well as anybody else in the nation is protect the quarterback. They've allowed just 5 sacks in 8 games. That's tied for 5th best in the nation. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, Andrew Van Ginkel, the redshirt freshman out of Iowa, has had a really nice year for the Coyotes. He's 6th in the nation with 8 sacks. So one of those things is going to have to give. So we'll look for them to try to come up with a scheme to block Van Ginkel. And so someone else on that Coyote defensive front is going to have to step up and make some plays. And then obviously some pressure on the secondary as well in terms of coverage, and obviously trying to generate a pass rush. And we'll see again if the Coyotes can generate some offense as well, because they're going to need it against Southern Illinois. And again, a 1 o'clock game at the Dakota Dome Saturday down in Vermillion. Meanwhile, a sentimental day up in Brookings, where it's the final home game ever for the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State at Coughlin Alumni Stadium. They're home since 1962. And here we are 54 seasons later, and this will be the last game, win or lose, when they host number 2 Illinois State Saturday at 2 o'clock, because come Monday, they're going to tear down the rest of the existing Coughlin alumni structure to make way for the Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium, which will go into effect next season. They just can't wait any longer, because with winter coming, they've got to get the construction process going in order for that to be ready by next football season, which of course means if the Jackrabbits host a playoff game this year, as we talked about last weekend, that game would be at Howard Wood Field in Sioux Falls. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because the Jacks still have some work to do to get to that stage, obviously with already a couple of conference losses. So South Dakota State coming off a very, very impressive shutout win at Missouri State last weekend. The Jacks' first shutout win in a couple of years, and also their first road shutout since the Division II days back in 1998. The special teams really with an excellent day in this one. Jay Carlson, 4 out of 5 on field goals, and also the Jacks did a great job of holding down Dion Holloman, one of the top kick returners in the country, and really neutralizing him and taking away about the only part of the Missouri State game that's been good this year for the Bears, I should say, was their special teams play, and they really didn't get anything going against South Dakota State. The first time we've seen the true quarterback rotation with Zach Lujan and Taryn Christian, both healthy, both contributing last week, and both having very, very good days, both completing above 80% against obviously a weak defense in Missouri State. But it was good to see both guys get out there and work themselves through this rotation, and that's the expectation again this Saturday against the Redbirds. You'll see Lujan for the first 2 series. You'll see Christian starting with series number 3, and then it'll be kind of up to the coaches after that to see who they think has the hot hand and what's doing well. Another thing to look for with South Dakota State's offense, Jake Winicky, healthy, their All-American wide receiver, really getting back to 100% for the first time last week. And if he's 100%, that's going to give that Illinois State defense something else to think about. Kyle Paris, still banged up a little bit at running back, so look for more Brady Mangarelli, Isaac Wallace, Reggie Gandy in their running back, and maybe Paris can make a go of it a little bit as he did against Missouri State. But the Jacks right now, the big key for them is going to be generating some offense, because the two big key games so far on their schedule this year, the marquee game against North Dakota State, and then that game a couple of weeks ago against Northern Iowa, both games at home, which ordinarily would give the Jackrabbits the edge, but in both games, the Jackrabbit offense managed just a single touchdown in each game. And so they've got to obviously generate some more points than that, because the defense has not been the issue. Last 4 games, Jackrabbit defense allowing 2 touchdowns. That's tied for best in that stretch in the nation. And so it's got to be some consistent output from the SDSU offense, which continues to not turn the ball over. Just two turnovers all year, both of those through the passing game, and both of those came way back in the Robert Morris game several weeks ago. And so that's not been the problem turning over the football. The problem has been sustaining drives, finishing off drives, getting touchdowns, and not field goals. And of course, special teams. We mentioned Carlson's big day at Missouri State. He's the special teams player of the week in the Missouri Valley. That's got to continue as well in this game, because field position is going to be very, very important against an Illinois State team that was the national runner-up last year to North Dakota State, and now the number 2 team in the nation. And they've got really a 3-headed monster on offense. Quarterback Trey Roberson was the first player in Missouri Valley history last year to go over 4,000 yards in total offense. He's back and is a real big running threat, and also has the ability to throw the ball as well. Marshawn Copperidge is the leading rusher right now in the Missouri Valley. And then they've got Anthony Warham, who's got 35 catches and 10 touchdown catches this year. And so right now, the defensive strategy for South Dakota State is try to at least neutralize one of those 3 guys, so take away at least 1/3 of those weapons and try to focus on the other 2. But it's going to take discipline. It's going to take the Jacks staying home and being true to their assignments and not getting too carried away and too aggressive on defense. Also generating a little bit of a pass rush as well, and taking advantage of some turnovers, which again is something that South Dakota State has done effectively this year, only turning the ball over twice. Defensively, Illinois State is about middle of the road when it comes to defense, although Teddy Corwin and Pat Meehan, 2 guys that are back from last year's game where Illinois State dominated thanks to a bunch of Jackrabbit turnovers, those 2 guys combined for 24 tackles against the Jacks last year. So Illinois State has been effective against South Dakota State in the past. This is a huge game for the Jacks. They've moved up to number 11 in the nation, and obviously a win over the number 2 team in the nation would mean big things for them on the national stage, and also put them a game closer to the top of the standings in the Missouri Valley, because with 3 games to play, they start the week 2 games back of Illinois State. They could cut that deficit in half with a win in the final home game at Coughlin Alumni Stadium coming up Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock.